Hello, welcome to Quilters Cupboard. Today I'm going to do a demonstration on how to make these little square in a square economy block ornaments. And for these ornaments I use the Hollyberry Tree Farm line of fabric because it has this cardinal fabric that was really cute to fussy cut for the center of the block. To make these you'll need the squared ruler, just this one from Studio 180, and you'll need the Stacked Squares technique sheet. And what's great about these tools is that you make everything slightly oversized, trim down to the perfect size so everything comes out perfectly every time. All your points are exactly where they need to be. And with the technique sheet, it will give you all the sizes of squares that you need to cut in order to create the perfect block. Now, the other thing I used to make these, which I found very handy, was this little 2.5 inch Quilters Select ruler. And it was great for fussy cutting the little center blocks. And you can see where the center is, so you know that you're evenly spaced within the center of the block. What you just need to remember when you're fussy cutting out your center block is that these pieces will end up on point like this in the final block. So when you put them on, you want it to be on point, not like that. Otherwise, all your center motifs will be a little cockeyed. So that's very handy too to have. You'll need 3 fabrics to make an ornament. You'll need your center focus fabric that you're going to maybe fussy cut a little motif out of. You'll need fabric for the first round of triangles, and then fabric for the second round of triangles and to do the back. And you'll need some ribbon to complete it and a bit of polyester stuffing. And a tip for the polyester stuffing, if you don't have any kicking around like I did when I started making these, is you can buy a pillow of polyester stuffing from Walmart for about $4, which is a lot cheaper than going to some other place to buy stuffing. So the first thing you're going to do is cut your 2.5 inch square. I'm going to make a 4 inch finished block, so that the chart tells me that I start with a 2.5 inch center block. And then following the chart on here, I've used a bit of glow line tape to highlight all the sizes that I need to make this block and have it end up 4 inches finished. I just look across and it tells me the size to cut the squares for the next round. So those will be the squares for the next round. And once you've got those cut out, you cut them on the diagonal. And then you're going to start piecing the whole thing together by adding them to your center block. And I find the best way to put these together is to put the triangle on the bottom, put the square on the top, and then you can pretty much eyeball whether your little rabbit ears on either side are about the same size. Doesn't have to be perfectly exactly precise because you are going to do a little trimming afterwards. So I would just pin that and do the same on the other side. It doesn't matter which sides you start with. Pin that. So our 1/4 inch seam allowance on either side. And then you end up with this pressed open. And at this stage, I just like to do a little check on whether my measurements are right to make sure my seam allowance is good. The inside square now should measure 2 inches. So if I measure that, I'm at exactly 2 inches. So I know my block is going to turn out perfectly. So before I put the next 2 triangles on, I like to trim off the little rabbit ears. Add the next 2 triangles and you end up with that block. Now you can see it's a little wonky. It's not perfectly square, but that's okay because this is where the square squared ruler comes in. And it's divided into 2 halves. This is Leanne's version of the ruler, and she's marked side A and side B. So because this is our first trim, we're going to use side A. We're going to lay this on. It says we're trimming for the center square for a 4-inch block. We're going to line up all our little hash marks around and we're going to trim. Turn that around. Same spot, line up the outer line, line up the little hash marks. And all that wobbliness goes away and we have a perfect block. So then we're going to check our chart again, read across, and it will tell us the cut sizes of the squares for the surrounding triangles. We go by that measurement and we cut out our next round of triangles, attach them in exactly the same way, and if you want, then you do the final trim, and for this you're going to use side B, and if your seam allowances have been good and you check them to make sure they were, the center block should fit exactly in the dotted lines for the 4-inch block. And the X's at each corner will be right in the corners of that block. And then you trim. And trim again. And there we are, a perfect 4.5-inch block with the little cardinal in the center on point. And then to build our ornament, we want to cut a 4.5-inch piece of fabric for the back. We want a piece of ribbon about 7 inches long or longer if you prefer. What I like to do is pin this to the top corner of my ornament, just the one side, and just stitch across that to anchor it down. That way when you're sewing around it doesn't end up shifting to one side and then your ornament hangs slightly cockeyed. So if you get that on, stitch it down, then you can take the pin out. Put right sides together, stitch around, leave a space on one of the bottom sides that's big enough to put your stuffing into. Turn it right side out, put the stuffing in, stitch up the opening, and there you have the finished ornament. You can add a little bow if you want to, a little bell, any embellishment that you want. And as you can see, we've got quite a few on the tree back here. Some with the black cardinals, some with the white cardinals. I think there's even a green cardinal as well. So I hope you have a lot of fun with that, and have a Merry Christmas. Thank you.